it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. Well, today we are going to be doing all things drops, gems, dots, whatever you have, whatever you want to call them, sequins, enamel drops or nouveau drops or any kind of dots that you have, any kind of gems, anything that you have. We are going to make work today and I want to show you some from simple to a bit more sophisticated, but all of them are very, very achievable options for your stash. So starting off, these are some of the things that you might have. I have these flat back gems. Now I have them in a couple of different sizes. I have this array. This is the extent of my entire collection and it fits nicely in this little box, which I love too. And I think I pretty much have a small and a medium of most colors. I will put links to this box and everything, storage box down below, and the gems. But honestly, I'm sure that if you've been crafting for any short amount of time, you've got something, at least one of these options today. So these are nouveau drops. These have been around forever. There are lots of different types. There are crystal, there are glitter, there are all sorts of different types, but I have a little few. Then you might have some of these. These are like stick-on gems, and then these ones here are more the traditional enamel dots. So you might have some or any or all of these options available to you. And as I said, I'm going to show you a range of ideas today that you can use where these basically are the main feature of the cards. So let's get started. First up is going to be simple but gorgeous. Now I also have these 4x4 inch card bases here and I thought I was keen to use these up today since they've been sitting in my stash waiting for me to use them. Today is the right time. So basing this off of what I'm going to create, I have this background here that was created with some tumbled glass distress oxide spray, I believe. So I may as well use this up too. I'm a big fan of using up things that I have in my little craft space. I have a small space, which means I need to keep things moving. Otherwise, piles just don't work out well for me. There's not a lot of space for them. So I work very hard to keep my scrap pile down pretty low. Now, I don't know the measurement of this little piece here, but you can see it takes up about 4/5 or 3/4 of the card front. And then I'm just going to put a dot. I'm eyeballing it where it should roughly go in the center. Then I'm just going to start attaching gems. I have no idea where these are from, and I know that these are really old. Now, I did test some of the adhesive on these. These still stick brilliantly. They still are not going to move around. If you're worried about that, you could put a little dot of liquid glue or something under each one. Or if you thought a glue dot, you could cut those up and make, if you thought that was going to be stronger. Lots of different options, but I'm just going to make a really quick pattern. So I'm just going for a kind of swirly type pattern today, but I mean, if you had red gems, you might choose to go for a love heart. You could make a sun. You could just make a diagonal stripy pattern across the front of the panel, or you could make flowers. You could have the outside of the flower be one color of gem and the inside of the petals be another color. I mean, I don't know, the options are endless, but we're going for super simple here. But I must admit, these gems have a very shiny finish to them, and so I quite like this look. I'm going super simple, but I think that you will like the end product of this card too. Now, just to give the edges a little bit of something, I'm going to take some of this Ocean Simon Says stamp Positively Saturated ink. Now, these inks, I actually only have 3. I just have one set of 3 colors, like a light, a medium, and a dark, and I must admit, I absolutely love them. I wasn't sure. I had heard a lot of people say really good things about them, and so I wanted to try them out. I don't necessarily have space for more inks, and I don't necessarily need them. This was definitely a purchase that I thought about for a long time and couldn't resist, but I did just try 3 and I love them, so definitely continue to use them. This is the darker of the colors, and since we're going for a blue theme today, I thought I would carry that on. So just darkening up the edges, giving themselves a little border. If you didn't want to use ink for this, then you could just use another piece of cardstock, lay it up behind it, just a pure matting piece of cardstock. That would be perfect as well. Now these inks are dye inks, they are water soluble inks, they are lots and lots of fun. They stamp very crisply. If I had to compare them to another company's inks, I would say they're very close to Catherine Paula inks in my opinion. So I was really impressed at their stamping abilities, which often for dye inks I find that stamping them is a mixed bunch of results, but that's just my experience. Now, I have this little stamp set here. This says, congratulations on your engagement, but I really just want the congratulations. This is not an engagement card, but this is for a little gorgeous baby boy who has entered the world, and so I just want the congratulations down the bottom. So again, using the same Simon Says stamp ink to stamp down the bottom, and that worked out perfectly. I just did a bit of swift masking and we are good. So this card is super simple, but it has that little shiny effect. It's going in a big gift basket, so I just wanted a little card to write a message on the inside. I'll pop this in, tuck it into the gift basket as well, and we are good to go. Now, next up, here comes the next version. I am going to use these Tim Holtz, the Sizzix Woodlands trees. I have used these in so many videos. They are not new. They have been out for quite a while. And any tree here is really going to work. I'm going to cut the tree out of some masking paper. I prefer to use the Gina K Masking Magic paper because we are going to be using some wet liquids today, and I find that these are the best for no leaking and no bleeding, no seeping through the paper. So this is my perfect masking paper. I die cut this out and I have the tree up the top. Now for this one, I am going to keep the tree that I die cut, but I actually just want the outside. Now, as I said, I'm going to put these on some smaller cards, so I really just want a smaller tree. But I didn't have a smaller tree die, so we're going to make work what we have, obviously. And just to shorten things up, I'm taking a little piece of that masking paper that I had from earlier on. Once I get this lined up straight, I was trying to see if it was lined up straight. I actually, in a previous video, there were some lovely comments saying that you should put the tree in first, the actual die cut in first, make sure that looks right on your page, and then pop down the outside mask around it that you had die cut. So that's a good little handy hint. A few people told me that one. Now I'm going to take some Lunar paste. This is the Slippery When Wet Lunar paste because this is my favourite gold. I have loosened it up with a little bit of water and I am just dabbing this on with my finger. I did end up putting quite a big blob up the top and I think I hadn't pressed down the masking paper, so I get a little bit funny up the top, but I'm going to show you a couple of tricks up there too. Now wait until the Lunar paste is nice and dry. Then I am taking a Posca pen. This one is a gold Posca pen, and I'm making some tiny dots, and then I'm making some larger dots with it. We are going to make this gorgeous Christmas tree, and of course the final is going to be all of the gems and things, the beads that we are going to add as well. So at this point I'm going to take off the mask, and I have a tiny little bit of bleeding up the very top. It's not very noticeable, but in a second I'm going to show you how we're going to fix that as well. So some Nuvo drops. Now there's that little blob up the top, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little blob of the gold Nuvo drops, and then I'm going to take a this is actually the Kaisercraft pick tool. This is super cheap. A friend gave this to me, and this is one of the best tools that I use in every single card making session that I have. So thank you, Nicole, for purchasing this one for me. And I have created a little star simply by pulling out the edges of the Nuvo drop, and it looks like a little star enamel dot that was always meant to be there. Now, I have a couple of different gems here. I have some flat back gems, which are just kind of a sparkly, crystally white kind of color. Then I also have some gold micro mini beads, which I don't particularly love using because they can go everywhere, but I just couldn't resist for this one in particular. Now, of course, I said that we are here to use up our drops and all of those things, but we've used our Nuvo drops up the top. I'm going to cover the tree in some little gems as well, and then I'm going to put on some more little gems with these little beads, and I just put little kind of blotches of glue here and there. This is the Ranger Multi-Medium in the matte finish. That's what's inside of the glue bottle, and if I just spread a little bit around here and there, Then I'm going to take, this actually happens to be one of the card bases, one of the other card bases, and sprinkle on some of these little beads and try and catch as many as I can down the bottom. And then this little tree is starting to look gorgeous, but at the moment it's very, very simple. But here we go. This is the scrapbook.com Christmas Wishes. Now, I don't often like to buy too many Christmas stamp sets, but this one is a really small stamp set, therefore has a really low price point, and that's what attracts me to these types of things. If I don't have to invest in a really, really large 6x8 stamp set or something like that, I really only want to buy one, if not two of those a year. So these smaller stamp sets are definitely something that I look for. Lower price point, and I don't feel so bad about buying another one of those that has some really nice sentiments to use. That's just me. I don't send out a whole lot of Christmas cards. I send out a handful, but yeah, I don't send out a whole lot. So I tend to just make a few every year. So now I'm going to finish this with a little border. I'm actually leaving some gaps in the border as well. I'm just using a gold Uni-Ball pen and a ruler. So at the moment, this is like a little card front. I think this panel measures around 3 3/4 by 3 3/4 inches. And so remember, I'm putting this down onto some card bases, which happen to be 4 by 4 inches. Obviously, if you wanted to, you could make this a full-size Christmas tree. You could also add the background. You could add in some snowbanks. You could add in all these sorts of lovely things. But this one was maybe one of my favorites. I don't know why. It catches the light a lot because of the Lunar paste as the base layer. And it just shimmers a lot because of some of the flat back gems, and I just like this. I like the simplicity of it. It is a little bit hard to see the white on white border in the camera, but in real life you can see that it's different pieces. I like this one. Very, very simple, very, very easy to create. None of these cards took me an extra long time today, so I really enjoyed creating these. And of course we've got our gorgeous little star up the top, created with just a Nuvo drop as well. So moving on to the next one, I'm going to speed through this part relatively fast because I know you've seen me do this part before. I have the Baby Bees Honeybee set. Now this one is super gorgeous. I'm not a really big cutesy kind of character stamps. I like to have a couple on hand, and for whatever reason these gorgeous little bees are kind of do it for me. I like this. I feel like I can use these in lots of different situations. For once they're different to butterflies, but I still feel like they fit in everywhere, so these have been very handy for me. I know you've seen them in a lot of videos, but that's the point, that we should reuse our stamps over and over and over again. I am going to quickly colour these in with some tri-blend markers. These are from Spectrum Noir, and these are 3 markers in 1 pen, so I like it that I can just get out a yellow pen and it has a light, a medium and a dark all ready for me to go. These, I have the bullet nib ones, but they also come in a brush tip marker. I went for the 24 pack, and that means that I am done for alcohol markers. I do not own any more. That's it. I'm done. I love them, and I've never ever I've never run out of one, even though I use these quite a bit. I've never had to replace one at all, so I'm really impressed. But anyhow, now onto my actual card base, and I fussy cut out the bees, but I did cut off their little antennae at the front. So my way of getting around that is that I'm going to stamp these onto the card base as well. I'm going to do my little squiggly line borders because this makes life really easy, and because it's not perfect and I like it that way, so I don't have to be perfect. I add a few of my little stitchy squiggles around, and I also add some little dots just for interest. This is kind of my go-to when I want a cute little border, but I don't want it to be super, super perfect. I think it's nice and whimsical and goes with the kind of theme of this. Then in the background, I'm just doing some very quick clouds using a die cut piece of cardstock, which has also been in my craft stash for years. I just die cut it once, and then it just is my go-to now. I'm going to add a little bit of foam tape on the back of my bees, just so that they stand up off of the background. Then I'm going to pop these on top, and then you're wondering at this point, where are the gems and things going to come in? But for this one, I must admit, I did get a little bit carried away with the bees and creating this card, but I thought I would leave it in here because we are going to use some Nuvo drops, and they are going to be the trail of the bees as well. But I just want to show you one little quick tip with the Nuvo drops for this one as well. Now, as usual, the idea of this video is that you are looking through your stash, you are seeing what you can use, and hopefully, maybe, you were inspired by a couple or at least one of these ideas that you could give this a go using the things that you have in your stash. I'm sure you have some sort of gems or Nouveau drops or dots or anything like that you could use. If not, then you're welcome to check out the links that I have down below to any of the items that I have used in today's video. I also have some links down there to the Buy Me a Coffee page that helps support my channel. And of course, I have my links down there and my address if you'd like to send me some beautiful snail mail. Now, I am going to put the Nouveau drops on here, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use the little tool pick here and sort of drag these out so they're all facing in one direction, just so this looks a little bit more like a trail. I do like the dots, but I like that they are a little bit more on the angle and they kind of look like a trail. So cute little way to use some Nouveau drops instead of just using a pen or something like that. Now, I know that there's not many of them on this page, but the next card is going to make up for it. So this one here is going to be one of those really, really quick cards to make. Now, I started off, this is one of these cards that kind of evolved. I knew I wanted some lines down the left-hand side, but I wasn't sure how big I wanted them to be. So whilst I was all caught up in wondering just how big to make this panel, I didn't see that the camera had stopped recording on me, so I lost this bit of footage, but it's pretty easy to catch up because all I did was rule some random lines down there in 3-ish different sets. Then I'm going to add some little enamel dots in 3 different colors. These remind me of music lines for music paper, note paper, if you turned it sideways, of course. But nonetheless, I am going to add some little enamel dots up and down. And then at this point, they weren't even, and that was frustrating me, even though that wasn't the plan all along. So I end up getting out my trimmer, and I'm going to cut these separately, individually. And so I thought I would space them out a little bit. I just caught a little enamel dot for that one. But this one, I'm going to separate them out. And then once I've separated them out, I decide that they look better together, but at least now they're going to be even because I have trimmed off the excess space. So this card comes about and it kind of goes around full circle, but that's okay. So now once I have them relatively even, I'm going to glue down these pieces. Of course, you could do this straight onto your card base. That would probably be the best way to do it, but you know how it goes with card making sometimes. Our plans change and that's okay too. So I pop these down on my card, and then I have some of the Simon Says Stamp sentiment strips, and this one is going to be a little very quick and simple happy birthday card. I often like these little cards when I don't need to write too much on the inside, or I just need a really brief little message, and I can pop these in with a gift or into a gift basket or something like that, without it being a really big card. So I do like making this size card, and I do find that my family tend to help themselves to my card making stash, which is exactly what it's there for, but they often pick these ones first, so I must remember that and perhaps make an effort to make some more on purpose. Anyhow, I'm just going to cut off all of those loose little edges that overhang. This card is super, super simple, but another way that you can use up lots of enamel dots. Of course, you could do this with the gems. You could do this with the Nouveau drops. You would just have to wait for them to dry a little bit, but really, really quick and simple. 4 different cards today with easy ways to use up your gems, your drops, your dots, whatever you have in your stash. So I hope that you have enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comment section down below if you think that you would give any of these a go, if these are your type and that you can see yourself creating something similar to these. I enjoyed making these. As I said, these are all pretty quick and simple, and I managed to make these 4 in pretty good time actually. So thank you so much for joining me. As I said, all the links will be down below. Other than that, stay safe, stay well, and I will see you in the next video.